Stocks remain in the green with the market breadth only mildly positive. IT, healthcare and FMCG are notching some gains while consumer discretionary and realty are the big drags.
IT stocks rally after Infosys said its board will meet on September 11th to consider a buyback of shares. The move ignites expectations of buybacks from other IT majors.
Muthoot Finance MD George Alexander Muthoot calls the GST rate cuts a great savings tax that will put more money in the hands of borrowers and savers, raising consumption and helping them meet their loan obligations.
Gold scales to a new high of over $3,650 per ounce as the weak U.S. jobs report raises expectations of a rate cut by the Federal Reserve. Now, addition to its gold reserves by China in August also supports the yellow metal.
Good afternoon, you're with us here on Business Lunch. We are coming to you live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I am Hormuz Fatakia. With me as always is Vamakshi Thoria. Vamakshi, good afternoon. So far, it's turning out to be a good afternoon for the bulls, but the so far is the bigger emphasis because you know what happened in the last hour of trade yesterday, and the bulls would be hoping that a similar trajectory does not follow, especially considering it's the NSE expiry today.
Well, absolutely, good afternoon to you, Hormaz. And, slowly but gradually, we've managed to recover from the lows of today, where I think about 40 points or so off the day's lowest point. So that bodes well. What's not actually doing well is the Nifty Bank, because, again, there's no support coming in from the Nifty Bank index. It's down almost 0.1%. But what's actually supporting the index, and in a big way, is actually the IT index. And one stock is a star performer, that is Infosys. It's up almost 4.5% in today's trading session and is contributing almost 70 points to the up move that we're seeing in the Nifty. Other IT stocks are also poked up in trade. Take a look at Wipro, that is up almost 2.6%. Emphasis is also doing extremely well, and Coforge as well, trading with a gain of almost 2%, Hormaz.
Indeed, and it is IT that has been doing the heavy lifting for a change today after being predominantly a drag, at least in the last 10 sessions, in which it had gained only once, had the Nifty IT index. So 2.5% higher on that stock. But of course, the broader markets are the ones that you need to keep an eye out for, because the activity in specific stocks is pretty significant. Even though the index remains at the flat line, the mid-cap index and the small-cap index both are mirroring the are underperforming the benchmarks, in fact, today. The mid-cap index at the flat line, as is the small-cap index. But take a look at some of the names in the broader markets. Look at ITDC, that is India Tourism Development Corporation. That has seen a very sudden spike today, 17% higher on that stock, and it has continued to move, particularly in the last half an hour or so, 18% higher on that stock. A couple of movers from the last few trading sessions. Precision Camshafts is one, JTKT India is the other one. Both of them continue to remain with gains, and Sula Vineyards is also trading with healthy gains of around 8% in today's session. But of course, Vamakshi was mentioning IT, and that continues to remain the flavor of the day. And of course, Infosys announcing that the consideration of the buyback the day after tomorrow is the big trigger behind all of these moves that you're seeing in IT stocks. 1500 now on Infosys. Rima is here with more details on this. Rima.
Thanks so much for that. So IT making up for lost ground, lost time. As you said, it was predominantly a drag. Even after the up move today, Infosys is down 20% on a year-to-date basis. But of course, this impending buyback announcement, 11th of September is when the board meet, has gotten the stock and the industry very excited. This will be the company's fifth buyback since 1993. Now, the big question is, how much will the company buy back? Well, estimates vary from about 10 to 14,000 crore rupees. That's the Morgan Stanley estimate. And typically, the buybacks happen at about an 18 to 25% premium. And just going by the last few, four buybacks, the company's historically bought back about 1.5% to 2%. So again, this time, Morgan Stanley says they should buy back 1.3 to 2%. But a buyback announcement signals confidence from the promoters about the value of the stock. It acts as a cushion. From the buyback announcement till the time it gets completed, earnings will come out. God forbid the earnings are disappointing, then at least there is that buyback support which comes in for the price. But the rest of the IT pack is also excited, because now after Wipro, The street is hopeful that maybe TCS and Wipro also come up with their buyback announcement, because the one-year cool-off, which you need between two successive buybacks, has come to an end. Both of them completed their buyback in 2023, so they're eligible for a buyback. HCL Tech and Tech Mahindra have been very, very irregular with their buybacks, unlike some of the other larger peers, which have been very regular. Back to you.
Well, thank you so much for that, Rima. But let's actually put the spotlight on MobiKwik. Now, this stock has been doing extremely well in trade. Yesterday it was up almost 11%. There was a block deal, and Hormaz is here to take us through what is going on with this stock. How has trading been? Hormaz?
There's very heightened trading activity that you've seen in MobiKwik over the last few sessions, actually since the start of September itself, and ahead of that impending block deal that was supposed to happen with ADIA exiting. And once it did exit on the 2nd of September, that trading activity has continued in that stock. Now, a trend that has been constant for MobiKwik since the start of the month is the fact that every single day since the 1st of September, the stock has had more than 1 crore shares change hands as part of its daily volumes, and that continues today as well. Now, as of last count, more than 1.1 crore shares had changed hands, and compared to a 20-day average of close to 90 lakh shares, so it is moving in tandem with the 20-day average as of now. And you take a look at the heightened trading activity here as well. So 2nd September was the day when the block deal took place, but on the 4th, 5th and 6th September, even in yesterday's trading session, you saw almost 5.5 crore shares that were traded in yesterday's trade. Almost 40 lakh shares were marked for delivery. Now, considering this move over the last 6 days, the 20-day average has, the daily average volumes before the 1st of September were close to around 19 lakh shares. Now, after this, the 1st of September, that daily volume has become 4.2 crore shares. Even in yesterday's trading session, with 5.5 crore shares traded, 1 crore was marked for, the 20-day average was 1 crore, 40 lakh shares marked for delivery, a 20-day average of 12 lakh shares. So still on heavily traded volumes in yesterday's trade as well. And yesterday had a turnover of close to around 1800 crore, which is almost 70% of MobiKwik's market cap. So after this move in the last 6 sessions going into today, the stock was up 50%. And as a result of that, the stock did manage to go back above its IPO price, but now it's seeing some profit booking today. And even after this move, the stock from its post-listing high, which is around almost 700 rupees, 698 is the post-listing high, is now around 53 to 55% from those levels. So it's been a strong mover in since the start of September has MobiKwik, but seeing some profit booking in today's session from higher levels.
Well, Hormaz, the stock is up almost 34%, as you were pointing out, in the last 1 month or so. So interesting data out there. But, let's go across to Upasana now, who is here with a roundup of all the stocks that are buzzing in trade today on the back of some news flow. Upasana, over to you.
First up, let us look at the Aditya Birla twins. They are in focus as Morgan Stanley is positive on these apparel retailers. It has initiated a coverage on Aditya Birla lifestyle brand with an overweight rating and a target price of 175 per share. It believes that it sees a gradual improvement in company's margin and return profile. It has also upgraded Aditya Birla fashion and retail with an overweight rating, and target price is hiked from 98 per share to nearly 131 per share. It believes that the company is at the cusp of improving financials and also sees opportunity for valuation re-rating. Next up is RailTel. On the back of order win, the company has received several orders worth 713 crore, and these orders are received mainly from Bihar Education Project Council. Next up is Voltamp Transformers. There's an 8% change in equity via block deals of nearly about 7,611. And mind you, post the stake sale, the promoter holding will fall below 30%, which is why the stock is under pressure today. Glenmark Pharma also in focus as companies received upfront payment of $700 million from AbbVie for an exclusive global licensing agreement. Quality Power is the next one on our radar. On the back of the order win, again, the company's received orders worth 75 crore by Material Step Down subsidiary for a fax system supply. And lastly, Vari Renewable Technology is also on our radar as the company has got a LOA for a solar power project worth 1,252 crores. So all in all these counters are buzzing in trade today, and we will be closely watching out for all of them.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Upasana. But take a short break then. More news and updates follow on the other side, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Well, let's now put the focus on precious metals. Gold has hit a record high while silver has also rallied. Manisha is here to tell us more. Manisha?
Been unstoppable. If you look at this year, it's been a couple of dozen times that gold has made all-time highs. Today, yet again, we've seen $36.50 an ounce being taken up on the higher side. If you look at silver, we are trading at 14-year highs in the international markets. But for the Indian markets, it's an all-time high for gold and for silver as well. Well, there has been quite a strong buying that we have seen into the markets. To begin with, it is about the US Fed meeting, the upcoming one in the month of September, where there is an expectation that the 25 basis point rate cut perhaps is going to happen. There's a 95% probability of that, and that seems to be getting factored into the prices right now. Also, when you look at the US data, whether it has been about jobs, housing, credit cards, and then of course that debt, which is at record numbers, all of that seems to be leading smart money in case of gold here. And then it's not just about US, even the Chinese data has been quite uneven. So we have seen strong buying come in from the Asian markets as well. The other point to remember is that the US dollar index continues to decline, and there is a forecast of further decline for this one, supporting gold. Markets also are looking at very strong central bank buying for the last 4 years now. China, of course, has been a very strong buyer and has bought for a 10th straight month in the month of August. That has been supportive for the markets as well. If you were looking at speculative buying, well, that is stronger. That's on the stronger side. ETF buying has been picking up, but it also has to do with the physical buying, even at these levels where you have physical prices trading in a premium, saying that every time there is a bit of a correction in gold, there are buyers already waiting in the sidelines. That continues to support gold buying as well. So when you look at this year and the last 12 months as well, it has been strong numbers that you can see in case of gold and silver. In this year alone, we've seen the gold prices gain up by almost 40%. And if you look at the last 12 months, it has gone up by 45%. Silver clearly outperforming with the kind of gains that we have seen, 43% higher for this year, 45% for the last 12 months. Platinum 55% up in this year. So it has been a very strong run-up rally that we have seen in the precious metal prices. Geopolitics, tariffs, uncertainties, concerns, the safe haven buying clearly coming in for gold with very strong targets for 26, even 2027 going forward.
All that glitters is gold. Manisha, thank you for that update. But from gold on to currency markets, then the rupee opened strongly today and dipping below the mark of 88 from a low of 88.26 that it had made last Friday due to the weakness and due to the selling pressure that was seen globally. But the currency lost its early gains rather quickly, now back above that mark of 88 against the greenback. Lata is here with more on this. Lata.
Well, after a long while, if you were a rupee bull, there was a bit of a cheer early morning when the dollar cost less than 88 rupees. It went rather quickly to 87.94, 93 levels. But it was only briefly over there. The reason for that is quite obviously only the dollar weakness. The dollar is weakened considerably in the last 24 hours, as it has been doing all of this year. It's because of the expectations of a Fed rate cut. There were also some problems in Indonesia with the financial minister getting fired and people expecting, therefore, that FPI is buying Indonesian bonds will now buy India bonds. And all that led to that kind of positivity we saw in the rupee, but it was very brief, a very brief moment under the sun. At around 87.90 levels, you just saw PSU banks come and buy the dollar heavily, mostly for importers. Importers probably stayed back on Friday because of the huge FPI buying. And the moment they saw some kind of, cheaper dollar, you saw them rush in, mostly oil importers perhaps, but importers of all hues. And therefore, the rupee remains the weakest currency in Asia. I'll just give you a measure. The dollar is actually weak 10% this year, if you count from January to now. Remember, it was 106, the dollar index, now at 96. It's a 10% fall. And you have seen gains in across, the Thai baht, Korean won rising 7%, each of them. Even the Chinese yuan is up about 2.5%, 3%. The yen is up about 6% versus the dollar. The rupee is still weak 2.5% versus the dollar, despite the dollar falling 10%. And that's largely because of this relentless tweets that you're getting, the fears in the market of, services tariffs, or, other kinds of bad-mouthing from other quarters, unless those series of, negative tweets or negative statements stop, it's very difficult to see the rupee recover much. People are looking at 87.90 to 88.30 now. Correctly speaking, 87.50 should come very quickly, even if there is a bit of positivity on the tariff front.
Well, thank you so much for that, Lata. But now let's focus in on the US market. It is a Qs-heavy week there. Now, the street will be hawk-eyed on inflation prints. Both PPI as well as CPI reports are due this week. Now, CNBC's Steve Leisman is here with a comprehensive roundup of what's expected.
Wall Street got the stag part of the stagflation equation with a weak jobs report on Friday. And the question this week is if they get the inflation part. An outsized increase in prices could give some members pause in cutting rates, perhaps not in September, but in the months beyond. Monday, the New York Fed showed inflation expectations pretty much stable, but at a relatively high rate above the Fed's 2% target. Tuesday brings benchmark payroll revisions that could show a substantial revision downward of U.S. job growth in the year ending in March of 2025. Producer price inflation on Wednesday and the all-important consumer price inflation report on Thursday. August core consumer inflation, which takes out food and energy, are forecast to come in at 3.1%, the same level as July. That should keep the Fed's preferred inflation indicator about a percentage point above the 2% target. Weak job growth expected to keep the Fed's focus on the employment side of its mandate. Most Fed officials anticipate tariffs will prove to be one-time price increases. Soft growth should put downward pressure on the non-tariff goods. But the concern among some Fed officials is service inflation, taking out housing. It rose in July for the fourth straight month, raising concerns about a wider inflation problem because services are not subject to tariffs. Some forecasters, however, do see a reversal of that service inflation coming in August. Futures market in the wake of the August jobs report are fully pricing in 3 consecutive rate cuts at the Fed's 3 remaining meetings this year, with even a 10% probability of a 50 basis point cut in September. While the September cut is probably not in doubt, barring a huge upside inflation surprise, Fed officials have suggested that they may need to stay somewhat restrictive as long as inflation remains above target. That could limit over time the amount of rate cuts this year unless inflation tops out and starts heading downward. Steve Leisman, CNBC Business News.
Steve Leisman, thank you for that update. Now, that week jobs data in the U.S. has cemented and all but confirmed the case for a rate cut in next week from the Federal Reserve. Let's listen to what economists and market experts had to say on these potential rate cuts from the Fed.
I think that the weak jobs report that we got, which sort of confirmed August weakness, really shows that the labor market has lost some momentum. It's not falling off a cliff, but it certainly has weakened over time. And even though, there's reasons to believe that immigration is affecting the supply side, we're not getting as many jobs per month as needed to keep the unemployment rate constant. We saw an uptick in that unemployment rate. Again, not a crashing labor market, but certainly one that has lost some of that positive momentum. So if I were in the room, I would say, let's move ahead with a 25 basis point cut in September. We still have some more data on inflation, but we know that inflation is going to be moving up because of the tariff.
In the past, when the Fed has cut interest rates, when the economy has been doing okay, it has usually been a recipe for a bubble. That's what happened in 99, 2000. And some will argue that that's what, possibly even happened in 2021. But I think the main issue here is the fact that financial conditions are super easy. The Fed has never cut interest rates when financial conditions have been this easy.
Well, all right. On that note, let's slip into a very short break. More news and updates follow on the other side, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Now, India's vice presidential election is currently underway and is a direct contest between the NDA nominee C.P. Radhakrishnan and joint opposition candidate B. Sudarshan Reddy. The voting began at 10 a.m. and members of both houses of parliament will be able to cast their vote till 5 p.m. this evening. The counting of the votes will begin shortly after voting ends and the results will be announced later this evening.
Well, let's shift our focus to some updates from Nepal. Demonstrators have set the Nepal's president's residence on fire, escalating tensions further as anti-government protests entered their second consecutive day. Now, the unrest, led largely by students, erupted across multiple districts in open defiance of restrictions on public gatherings, with demonstrators demanding Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's resignation. Now, the police's use of force has left at least 19 people dead and several injured following the deadly clashes.
Now, the Munich Motor Show of 2025 has opened for the public today. All major global brands are showcasing the future of mobility and their vision and technology. Skoda has unveiled its Vision O concept car, an electrified estate blending futuristic design, AI-driven technology, sustainability and autonomous features, marking the next chapter in the brand's philosophy. Shivani Bajaj gets us a sneak peek.
How would you like a car that has a portable fridge or ice box, a Bluetooth speaker that you can take for the picnic, and well, 4 umbrellas neatly tucked in? Well, meet the Skoda Vision O that combines all of these cool features. Now, this is a concept car that Skoda has given us a preview before, ahead of the Munich Motor Show here in Munich. And this is how Skoda's future cars might look like. Now, the production of this car has some time. It might go in production by 2029, so there is still time. But this is how Skoda's new age cars might look like. If you see the design language, it's very how Skoda's cars come right now as well, but a lot of modern touches to that. Now, this is a concept car I might not be able to show you, but these LED lights pop in and pop out whenever needed. So this is the design language of the new Skoda's Vision O that is, highlighted and showcased here ahead of the Munich Motor Show. Now, inside the car, if you can see, this is a modern, futuristic looking car with very sleek doors as well. Now, in the back, you can see that this is has a very spacious boot. If you recline the back seats, it goes to 1700, and that is a very Skoda-like thing to do. Now, let me tell you inside what is the cool thing. The LED lighting inside adjusts according to the daylight, so it basically adjusts with your biometric clock, your body clock, so it gives you a feeling of the sunlight moving according to the day. Apart from that, it comes in very cool colors. If you can see, there is a monochromatic sort of a thing going on. This is beige, but there are blue tones also that you can see. I would want to focus on the car and how sleek this entire thing is. There is this air movement space over here, and aerodynamics, obviously, 21-inch wheels on this one. And check this out, the horizontal display inside the car runs throughout the cabin, 1.2 meters, but there is also haptic controls so that the driver is not confused looking at the screen. So you can touch, you can use the haptic, and you can also voice control the car. So there are a lot of cool features in this car. This car might not go into production right now. The production might take some time. By 2029 is what we are expecting, but this is how the future of Skoda might look like.
Well, thank you so much for that, Shivani. But Hormaz, looking at how the car is turning up, do you think maybe 4 years down the line, when it finally comes into production, you might consider?
I love my public transport. I'll stick to that. And maybe that's how it should be as well. I prefer public transport that way. But interesting, no doubt about the car, indeed. But that's all we have on this edition of Business Lunch from Amakshi and me. Thank you for watching. Midcap Radar on the other side.